think that would be a really cool thing to do as an experiment, to go to a party just to say, hey.
Yeah, hey. One question to ask yourself is, are you getting inspiration or are you consuming, as you said? If you're just consuming, then it's just like junk food, in general. So the more you focus on your restrictions, the more you will be around those borders. You have to step out of it and not focus on that.
I remember, firstly, I remember you as one of the kids who used to sit in my KC class. Okay. And after that, I only saw one and something else had come around. So just tell me what happened and how did this go around? Just a little, how did your professional journey take shape?
My first decent break was with publicity, ambience. It was just a stroke of sort of fortune that really that whole interview came about. And the person I interviewed with is somebody who's your friend, Ambika. I spent a good 2 years there. Eventually I shifted to ANC, Alok Nanda and Company. And that was actually, I think, like a pivotal shift for me. So the difference for me was when you work in a big agency, you are sort of enveloped in the whole agency culture, like 24/7 more or less. I mean, very often it is literally almost 24/7 where you're working nights.
There has been like about 6-7 different, professions, so to speak, that you've touched upon in this journey. Okay, and that's quite, for me, it's damn commendable. And it's like, bro, how do you manage that? When did that turn around? How did that turnaround start to happen? Was it organic, or was it something that you were doing and you rediscovered it? How did it work?
It was a combination of organic and making some very hard decisions in life. Eventually, also I had this idea while traveling home. I live in Juhu and my workplace is in Kalagura, so I have to travel to Churchgate, right? And it struck me that there are such interesting characters in the train that you see the same people, and probably including myself, but their behavior within the whole framework of the trains is so intrinsic to the whole experience of the train that they deserve a sort of tribute to them. So I started sketching. Since I'm a writer, I also started doing, naming them with hilarious names. And it sort of expanded on it with a little bit of a funny write-up. I always grew up loving, I know you also love Calvin and Hobbes.
Oh, yeah.
I Calvin and Hobbes in that sense.
Recommended for any person who's alive.
Peanuts and so many other comics that I grew up reading. I love them so much, and I just thought, there's no space like that in India. No one's doing it. And why not?
Sure.
So with that in mind, I decided to push ahead no matter what. It took me a long while. Like I mentioned earlier in the segment, I worked on the idea of Zal 2012. But I sat on it after that for years because I didn't want to give it away for free. I didn't want to upload it on the internet. A lot of people told me who knew. Yeah, they're like, why don't you just put it up as a webcomic only? And I said, I thought, no, I want to make this a profession. And a profession means you get paid.
How does someone pursue a career as a cartoonist?
The problem with cartooning is, first of all, there are very few places where you can go to learn. I still don't know any official place where you can go and learn in India. There are mostly political cartoonists who are full-time, but there's no comic strip as such, that exists.
See, being a cartoonist out of a hobby and being a hobbyist cartoonist, yeah, that's doable for everybody. Okay, but to be a cartoonist as a profession, I don't know too many. I know a lot of people who do cartoons, but I don't know too many people who earn from doing cartoons.
That's the thing, right? I mean, we need creative infrastructure in place. This is something that's lacking in every sphere, in every creative endeavor in India. But obviously in cartooning, it's non-existent completely. It's nothing compared to stuff that you see in the West and the East. There was a man who's credited, for sort of pioneering the whole manga craze and the whole genre. But if that guy had sat down in Japan and said that I'm only, no one's making a living from comics and cartoons and whatnot, so I guess I won't do it. Then it would never have grown. So movements have to start somewhere or the other. So I hope more people follow.
I genuinely believe that you are able to convert this whatever you've created into an actual movement, or I would hope that at some point you were to create like a forum where people who are cartoonists, professional aspiring cartoonists, can all come together and create some kind of a body which actually works towards the betterment of the entire industry. I would like for you to like pull out, give me examples of your favorite work from your portfolio.
There was one project that I really loved, was this series of films that were there for Tata Ace, this pickup truck that they have. The brief was something that happened which is very rare in Tata Motors. They were pissed off. They were pissed off because their competitors had done some advertising that sort of poked fun at Tata Ace, and they wanted to hit back.
वेलकम टू एक सवाल समझदारी का ललितपुर में। आज हमारे सामने है मिस्टर जामी।
वो जेमी।
सॉरी, जामी। और साथ आए हैं उनके मामा, माने अंकल।
Whoa man, that's my mama. That's my mom.
हाँ, मिस्टर जामी, पहला और आखिरी क्वेश्चन, कौन सी गाड़ी है जो हर गाड़ी से बेहतर है? ए टाटा एस, बी ईगल, सी एक्सर साइकिल, डी राइफल।
मुझे पहला लाइफलाइन मिस्टर मेल खाना चाहता है। ऑडियंस पोल।
ऑडियंस पोल। ऑडियंस ने कहा ए, और आपने?
सी एक्सरसाइज।
मूर्ख। कुछ लोग कभी नहीं समझेंगे, पर जो अपना बिजनेस समझते हैं वो जानते हैं कि टाटा एस हर गाड़ी से बेहतर है, क्योंकि एस में है फ्रंट लीफ सस्पेंशन, लार्ज व्हील बेस, हाईएस्ट ग्राउंड क्लियरेंस, इजी टू मेंटेन इंजन और प्रूवन ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड। टाटा एस यानी एस का दम। वेलकम टू एक सवाल समझदारी का पहलगाम में। आज हॉट सीट पे बैठी है मिस बेटी, जो इस गांव की सेब की तरह है, वेरी ब्यूटीफुल। लेट्स बिगिन विद वन एंड ओनली क्वेश्चन। कौन सी गाड़ी है जो हर गाड़ी से बेहतर है? ए बुगाटी, बी मावासाकी, सी मिस्राकी, या डी टाटा एस।
फोन अ फ्रेंड लाइफलाइन इस्तेमाल करना चाहती है? Thank you.
Hello, Christy. Listen, girl, I want to tell you. Gina caught her boyfriend, Jack, cheating on her. Oh my God. Shut up. That's so messed up. Tell me more. Huh?
See, Miss Rocky?
कुछ लोग कभी नहीं समझेंगे, पर जो अपना बिजनेस समझते हैं वो जानते हैं कि टाटा एस हर गाड़ी से बेहतर है, क्योंकि एस में है फ्रंट लीफ सस्पेंशन, लार्ज व्हील बेस, हाईएस्ट ग्राउंड क्लियरेंस, इजी टू मेंटेन इंजन और प्रूवन ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड। टाटा एस यानी एस का दम।
That was a project that taught me that the power of really presenting to people. It was always the manner in which I presented those scripts that stole the film more than the script themselves. You know, it's the power of face-to-face persuasion.
So is there any such work that stands out, that sticks out as, oh, this came and poof, everything changed?
There's this gorgeous shot of, I think, the Maldives, one of the Maldives property. And it just said still or sparkling over the water. You know, I mean, it was written by Alok, and I learned that later, to be honest. I thought it was written by somebody else.
Is there any other work that stands out for you?
The work that was done initially for Orange, you know, when Orange was Orange, before it was Vodafone.
Fun fact is that the same art director has created Orange has created Hutch and has created Vodafone, and
Correct.
they are completely different brands. Like 5 musts for a copywriter.
Read stuff that you wouldn't necessarily read. Read newspapers also. The more you focus on your restrictions, the more you will be around those borders. You have to step out of it and not focus on that. And don't put limits on building your folio. At no stage in your life do you have to be like, okay, I have a great folio and I have to stop. You have to keep adding to it. So even if you feel that your folio is at a certain stage, make sure a month or two later, especially when you're young, you added a couple of pieces to it or more. Just keep updating it. Even on Instagram, you can like follow stuff that's so inspiring.
Even cooler part, I think, of Instagram is the fact that you can actually connect with these people. If there are 5 people that you would say that you draw a lot of, like you like to watch, and if people, like there are 5 people here, you would recommend, bro, ये 5 जन को तो देखना बनता है Instagram पे.
I'd recommend New Yorker cartoons because really they are the gold standard of like cartoons in general. I'm sure it's not a out of the box recommendation, but in case you aren't following it, then definitely check out New Yorker cartoons. I'd recommend Suresh Ariar. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Founder of Ecosaurus. I actually like following him on Instagram, particularly because of his personal sketches that he makes. I love his that hand-drawn style that he has, and those little snippets and life stories that he adds in his drawings. Tom Gold I'd recommend because very unique sense of humor, very cerebral. His cartoons are extremely like sort of cerebral in terms of his topics and his style, but his drawings are extremely simplistic, so it's great learning curve for even a writer. I'd recommend Atlas of Beauty because, I mean, Instagram is about, in the end of the day, lovely pictures, and Atlas of Beauty captures like women from across the world, like in their simplest form. This photographer who's just started a simple journey and made it a book and an entire Instagram account that's followed by millions now. So, and Abstract Sunday, of course, the famous illustrator who's made even more famous from the Netflix series Abstract. So Christopher Neiman, I definitely recommend following him for very unique take on illustration and a point of view on illustration.
How are you with your kids and with your youngsters? Are you a tough boss?
I don't believe in being harsh in the sense for the sake of it. On the person, you should be harsh in terms of your standards of your work. And everybody needs like a bit of a either motivational sort of speech or maybe a kick in the butt, sometimes, because all of us have experienced both good and bad bosses, and we all know which boss we would be comfortable with. So you should try to be that kind of boss, is what I believe.
Now you've moved from being younger generation to someone whom the younger generation can look up to. Is there something that you want to tell the younger generation in terms of the industry, the craft?
Since media has evolved so much and is constantly evolving, I think any youngster is in a good position where they can enter also as an authority as much as someone who experienced, which wasn't the case before. So I'd say always be collaborative in that sense, even as a youngster, and I'd advise all the seniors also to be a little more collaborative when they are youngsters.
How does one go around making a portfolio when you don't have either the exposure or the opportunity to create work?
Honestly, today it's very different. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you didn't have access sometimes to a computer, literally. Everyone didn't have a computer. But at this point, you can honestly, on your smartphone itself, if you're a writer, for example, and you don't even have an art director to help you, for example, you can create a portfolio even on your phone. I mean, there's no limit anymore, right? I mean, that's just the truth. You can download an app. You can use Instagram and just go to stories and put it on different backgrounds. That's just how it is. One of the legendary copywriters of forever, like Freddie Birdie, we know him from a different era, but he's now famous on Instagram because because of his amazing posts that he just uses just basically just normal backgrounds and his words just say it all.
The frequency with which he hits a beautiful shot is just amazing.
Yeah, it's really insane. He's really like something else.
Any career as an artist is fraught with a little bit of skepticism as to how they will manage the commerce and the creative aspect of it. Is there something that you have, that something that you want to tell them, that how to manage that insecurity of sorts?
So you have to learn to become independent. You have to learn how to step outside your work and judge it like you are your own boss, and someone's looking over your shoulder. You have to look over your own shoulder. So that's the most important facet, I would say, for in general creative work.
In a portfolio, if you're looking at a portfolio, okay, and this is specifically as a creative director, what are the things that you look for actively? And the second question would be, what are the things that you see in a portfolio which is something that you cannot tolerate?
It depends on who you're hiring, what for, and what agency and what group. But overall, you look for a certain amount of uniqueness in terms of their voice. Overall, I still look for originality of thought. Overall, stuff that I can't tolerate is idea stealing. For me, it's not just about idea stealing; it's stealing. I've noticed this trend lately. I don't know why, but young people are starting to treat it like it's a social network. Don't write to me and say, like, add me on LinkedIn. If I add you back, don't just say, hey, hello, and just stop at that in my inbox. Because if you met somebody face to face, you just said, hey, and you just stopped and you just stare at them. Wouldn't it be weird? Like, you have to say something. Right?
At one level, I think that would be a really cool thing to do as an experiment. To go to a party, just to say, hey.
Yeah, hey.
So kids, do you have any questions? Would you like to make yourself visible and ask anything that you may want to ask?
My question is that there is so much in terms of inspiration, there is so much that we're consuming that after a point it sort of starts to hit on your confidence in terms of what you're doing and your work. So where can you draw a line in terms of what you're consuming? Or how do you ground yourself and be like, hey, I know everybody's doing all of this amazing work, but this is what I do and this is my area of expertise or my uniqueness. Yeah.
Everyone has this problem on Instagram, for example. One question to ask yourself is, are you getting inspiration or are you consuming, as you said? If you're just consuming, then it's just like junk food, in general. So it's not necessarily inspiration that you're actually consuming. You're just consuming. So cut down on the people following in general. That's what I do. I'll give you a secret that nobody says. That is true of every creative professional in the world. I'm sure of it. Is that every creative professional is insecure. The insecurity is actually good in some ways because it kind of drives you forward in some ways also. That you should have a little bit of a tap on your shoulder. I think it's good. But everyone builds, stage by stage in terms of their career, their work. No one's an overnight success. That's a myth. There's no such thing as an overnight success. It doesn't exist. Everyone's stage by stage.
Yeah.
Anyone who's ever been famous for their work has done a lot of, other work, good or bad, preceding it. So that's something you should always keep in mind.
Hi. So my question might sound super cliche, but I've always wondered that people who are into creative fields, I'm sure they deal with creative blocks. And that's something that's I'm sure it's really scary because that is your bread and butter and that's your whole, work. So how do you deal with it?
So I actually don't believe in creative blocks. So honestly, I don't subscribe to it. I never had it. I don't believe I'll ever have it. As opposed to most people who they've told me that they have a creative block. Writer's block is a phrase. I don't believe in it because there are people that I look up to, like we spoke about earlier. People like Bill Watterson, the cartoonist, and there's Charles M. Schulz, who was a cartoonist who drew Peanuts for 50 years. And he drew a comic every single day, 365 days of the year. Can any of us imagine working 365 days of the year on a new idea every single day for a brief? Impossible, right? We'd be like, no, that's not possible. But they have done it. Why? Because they didn't allow themselves the opportunity to, have that block. It's as simple as that. In fact, if I'm stuck, it's always because I'm being a brat. The truth is, it's not about a creative block. It's just about, our inner brat sort of telling us that, ego telling us, you've done a good enough job. Maybe you should stop. But the truth is, there's no block. It's just you. Sometimes you need to pace yourself. If you feel you need a break, fair enough. And no one's a machine in that sense. But usually writer's block, I feel, doesn't pertain to the piece of work you're working on. It's more about yourself, and it's different for everyone,
So Cyrus, superb, man. I was great chatting with you.
So, honestly, this has been great for me as much as for you, I'm sure. I hope for you. But just these conversations, I think, are amazing. I love conversations with people. I think they're underrated in that sense. And TeeTox is a conversation that we've had that is felt like it's a conversation that's, been pending more than anything else,
Thanks for taking the time, bro. It's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
man. Thanks so much, Jerry. Thank you.
Peace out.
Catch you later.